Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get three integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves three times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd, or an odd, cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64. And it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. If there were 39 people on the bus and 4 people got off the bus, that would leave 35 people remaining on the bus. So the fraction of people staying on the bus is 35 out of the 39 people on the bus. So our answer is, as a fraction, 35 over 39. We can't cancel that any further. To convert between metres and centimetres, we times by 100. So we do 12.31 times by 100, which would be 1,231 centimetres. So we can either use the calculator to work out what 1.2 cubed is, or we can do 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2. Now, if you want to use the calculator to go straight there, you're going to press or type in 1.2, and then normally there's a button that looks like this, X with a little 3, okay, and that will give you the answer. Or if you're not sure how to do that, you can times it by itself 3 times, and you get the answer 1.728. This question's all about like terms, so what we can do is we can add this 10u with this 11u to make 21u. We can also add this 6v with this plus 4v to make 10v. We can also add this 10w to this minus 6w. So 10 take away 6 is 4w, so plus 4w. But we can't add a u term to a v term to a w term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21u plus 10v plus 4w. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. Something to realise in this table we're given in this question is that the triangle has 3 sides, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, and hexagon 6. And that number is just 2 less than the number of faces. So basically, if you've got the number of sides, you add 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6, 5 plus 2 is 7, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So if we've got 20 sides, and we just do the same thing, so we're just adding 2, then we should have 22 faces. So our answer is 22. A comparative bar chart is where you have 2 bars next to each other meaning different things. So it's probably easier just to start drawing it, and then we can talk about it as we go along. So we've got males here at 12. And so what we want to do is a bar that is 12 high. And these are going up in 2s. So it will be up here. There we go. And then right next to it, we're going to do females, which is 14. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this go up to 14. And there we go. Now, we need to be able to tell these apart, so what I'm going to do is just shade in the females. And we should do a little key. And we say that if they're not shaded, it's males. And if they're shaded, that is females. Okay, let's carry on with the bar chart. So it's 14 and 6. So notice I've got gaps between the pairs. So we've got 14 and 6, which would be down here. And again, we're just going to shade in the females. And then finally, we've got 8 and 16. So 8 would be here. And 16 be up here. And finally, obviously, we're going to shade in the females. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to 3 significant figures. And basically what that means is starting from the left-hand side, it's 3 numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that third number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No, all the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. So we're going to use a function machine to find out the output when we've got an input of 11. So we put 11 into this machine, and the first thing that happens is we multiply it by 3. So out of that first machine, we're going to have 33, which is 11 times 3. Then the next part of the machine is going to take away 5 from that. So 33 take away 5 is going to be 28. So our output is going to be 28. If we try to draw a quadrilateral with a pair of parallel sides, and then it's a quadrilateral, so join them up, it's got 4 sides, then the shape we draw will always be a trapezium. So our answer is that it is a trapezium. Now you might think that a rectangle and square does have one pair of parallel sides, but it actually has 2 pairs of parallel sides. The definition of a trapezium is it has just 1 pair of parallel sides, and any quadrilateral that has 1 pair of parallel sides is a trapezium. We could write an expression for the cost of 6 pencils and 13 rulers. The cost will be 6, and then let's call the cost of a pencil P, plus 13R, and let's call the cost of a ruler R. And let's actually make this an equation. So cost is equal to that. A pencil costs 50p, so it's 6 times 50 plus, and a ruler costs 40p, so it's 13 times 40. So 6 times 50 is 300, 13 times 40 is 520. Add those together and you get 820. So that's £8.20, but it does ask it, or it implies that the answer should be in pence, so it's 820 pence. Another way of writing a to the power of 6 is a times a times a times a times a times a. And another way of writing a to the power of 5 is a times a times a times a times a. Now you might notice that altogether there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 a's that are being multiplied together. When you multiply something together 11 times, you get that thing, which is an a, to the power of 11. An easier way of doing this is just adding the powers. So when you've got the same base, which we do here because they're both A, you just add the powers together. So we have an original amount, and this represents 100% of the original amount. The new price, or new amount, represents 113% because it has said that it has gone up by 13%. So it has increased by 13%. And as a value, that increase is £1,287. So it's 13% of the original. It's gone up 13% of the original price. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what 1% of the price increase is. Instead of 13%, we're going to work out what 1% is. And we're going to do that by dividing the amount by 13, and we get 99. So 1% represents £99. So 1% of the original represents £99. But the new amount is 113%. So we need to times the £99 by 113, which gives us £11,187. So the picture is now worth £11,187. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So we know that the mean is the sum of numbers over the amount. But in this question, we're actually given what the mean is. We're given that that is 29. We're also given the fact that there are 4 cards, so we're given the amount. So what we can do is just get our lines in and solve this. So what we're going to do is just times both sides by 4. So we're going to do 29 times 4, which is 116. And so we know that the sum of the numbers will be 116. So all we need to do is to find the 4th card, is get that 116 and just take away the numbers that we know. And when we do that, we get the answer 26. Now you can easily check this by adding up 37, 26, 27 and 26 again, and then dividing it by 4, and you will get 29. So we're going to track the amount of eggs to make the amount of, or to make each amount of omelette. So 5 eggs makes 17 omelettes, and we're just going to find out how much is required, how many eggs is required to make 1 omelette. So we divide that by 17, divide both sides by 17, and so 1 omelette would be 0.294 blah 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 eggs. Next we want to see how many for 67 omelettes, and to get to 67 from 1 times 67, so do that to the amount of eggs, and we get 19.705 blah blah blah. Now you can't get 0.705 of an egg. We always round with eggs, and we always round upwards, because if you need 19.7, 19 won't be enough, so we need to pick 20 eggs. So to do this question, you just need a piece of paper, a ruler and a protractor. And the first thing we do is we draw the 11 centimeter line. And my one will not be 11 centimeters for you. It is on my screen, but because depending on what device you watch this on will change obviously its length. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my protractor on this end here. So I've kind of got my protractor here. And I'm going to just have a look at getting 39 degrees. Now you've got to be careful because 39 is on the inside, and I'm just going to do a dot. So always look to see which one, the inside or the outside of the protractor, starts at 0, and the inside should start at 0 from this side. And I'm just going to draw a line that connects the end of that line and the dot. Like so. Now just you can keep it going. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is put my protractor on the other side. So my protractor is kind of here, and I'm lining up the crosshairs with this point here. But this time I'm measuring on the left hand side, and I'm looking at 59 degrees, which will be here. Get my ruler. Now this time I can actually stop where it hits the other line. So keep going and then stop where it hits the other line. This screen's not perfectly calibrated, so it's difficult to do precise work, something like that. And then what you can do is you can get your rubber and just rub out the extra bit of line that we had to do. And so this is our 39 degrees here, and you don't need to label this on the diagram, but just so we know what we're doing. And it says when it's completed, measure length x. So I'm going to get my ruler out and I'm going to measure this length here, this one here, and it is about 95 millimeters. So the answer for me is 95 millimeters. Now there is some level of precision. You're not going to get necessarily exactly 95 millimeters. When we mark these questions, we normally have an overlay and we put it over the top, and if it's roughly the same, and you can make small errors because nobody's perfect, and my diagram definitely is not perfect, but there are allowable small errors here and there. So the only options for the next card are for them to be higher, lower, or equal to 12. We already know that the probability for it being higher is 19% and lower is 28%, and all probabilities have to add up to 1, or in this case, because it's percentages, 100%. So to work out the probability that is missing, we're going to take away the 19% and the 28% away from 100% to see what's left, and that's 53%. We're going to start off by finding what the multiplier will be. So we'll start off with 100%, and it's a decrease of 32.6%, so we're going to take that away, and that will leave the percentage as 67.4%. Next we need to convert that into a decimal, so we're going to divide it by 100, and that will make it into a multiplier. And the beauty about a multiplier is all we need to do is get the amount from the question, 486, and times it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us, and it will give us the answer of 327.56. We're going to first of all have to convert these both into the same unit. So we've got minutes and hours. That's not going to help us much. So what I'm going to do is pick the smaller unit, which will be minutes. So I'm going to keep that 50 minutes. And I'm going to convert 3 hours into minutes. That would be 180 because we times by 60. And I'm going to just remove the minutes now. And I can first of all divide by 10, and we want to try and make it nice and simple for ourselves. So divide by 10 would be 5 to 18. And we look at it, 5 and 18, actually there's nothing further we can do with that. So the ratio would be 5 to 18. So the only way of answering this question is to work out what these are as ordinary numbers. And so 7 times 10 to the power of 7 would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 9 times 10 to the power of 4 would be 90,000. So that would be 9, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we're just subtracting them like that. And so we'll get 6, 9, 9, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And obviously if this is on the calculator paper, just type it into your calculator. There are no tricks here. You can't do anything with the 7 and the 9. You're not subtracting powers or anything. You're just literally typing in what it says. And there's a button on the calculator like that that you will need to use. So if you don't know what that is, ask your teacher or ask someone to help you out with that. So angles on a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340. And then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. So when we say y is directly proportional to x, what we mean is whenever x doubles, y will double. Whenever x halves, y will halve. Now we've got this proportionality sign here, and to make that an equals, all we need to do is introduce a k constant to the right hand side. So it's y equals something times x. Now to find out what that something is, to find out what that constant is, what we're going to do is feed in the value of y and the value of x that we have. So we're going to feed those in. So y is 55.3 and x is 7. So it would be 7k. And we're just going to put our lines in and solve this. So it's going to be divide by 7 both sides. And 55.3 divided by 7 is 7.9. And that's what k is. So we're going to rewrite this equation here, this formula here, y equals 7.9x. And that is actually our answer. We can't work out what x is straight away, but we can find this value here. And we know with Pythagoras we can find a third length if we've got other two in a right angled triangle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a and b were labelled. C is always opposite the right angle. So it would be 49 squared plus b squared equals 68 squared. And 49 squared is 2,401. And 68 squared is 4,624. So we are solving here, so let's get our lines down. And we're going to start by subtracting the 2,401 from both sides. So we've got b squared equals 2,223. Then we're going to square root both sides, and we've got b equal to 47.148, blah blah blah. Okay, we're now looking at the second diagram, and this time we're going to have a, we've got our b, and we're going to call x the c. So it would be a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but this time a is 39. B we are given as 47.148. We've just worked that out. And we're looking for c. In fact, we can call it x now. Okay, so we need to square that. So we do 39 squared plus 47.148 squared, and that will be 3,744 equal to x squared. And we'll just get our lines in because we need to square root both sides, and we get 61.188 blah blah blah. is equal to x. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so that will be 61.19. So we know that James knows that he has a square, so we can actually get rid of all of this bit. It's not relevant at all to the question. And the question asks, what is the probability that the square is blue? Well, there are 3 blue squares, so it will be 3 over, and how many are there in total? Well, it says the total is 17. So the answer is 3 over 17. If I start by drawing a number line, and we're going to put the 110 in the middle. Now I'm going to label the next one down and the next one up. It says to the nearest 10, so the next one down would be 100, and the next one up would be 120. Now we're interested in the cutoff, and the cutoff point is between the 2 numbers. Okay, so that's the cutoff point. If it goes above that cutoff point, it would have rounded to the next number up. So if the number was here, it would round to 120. If the number is on the cutoff point, which we can see is going to be 115, then we know it would round up. So we need to find the biggest number in this part here. So this part here, and it includes this line actually, so it includes this line. So all the numbers that would have rounded to 110 would have been 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, which would be here. But if it was 115, it would have rounded to 120. So 114 is the biggest number it could have been before rounding to 120, and we know it didn't round to 120 because in the question it says it's 110 to the nearest 10. So our answer is 114. So we're going to first of all work out where 9 is on the y-axis. Well, we've got 8 here and 10 here, so 9 will be halfway in between. And what we're going to do now is just draw a line across at 9, and then wait until it hits the line. And then we're going to draw a line down, and you can see here that x is 1. So our answer is that x equals 1. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area of the trapezium. And the formula for that is half brackets a plus b times h. Now a and b have to be the parallel sides, so here we've got the 2 parallel sides here, which just pick a different colour, here and here. So that is A and B. And then the H is the perpendicular distance between them. So perpendicular means it hits it at right angles, so that's what we've got here. So the area would be half times A, which is 28, plus B, which is 14, times the height, which is 14. And so that would be 294. Next we'll do the circle. Now it doesn't look like we've got anything for the circle, but actually the height here is actually the height of the circle as well. So the height of the circle is the same as the diameter. So the diameter of the circle is 14. Therefore, the radius would be half of that, which is 7, and the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So it would be pi times 7 squared, which will be 153.938, blah, blah, blah. Now keep that in my calculator, because next thing we'll do is the shaded area part, and it says we want to work out the area of the shaded region. So the area will be the total area, which will be the trapezium, take away the area that we don't want, which is this bit here, which will be the circle. So the trapezium's 294, the circle's 153.93, blah, blah, blah. And when you do that, you get 140.061, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it would be 140.06. So the first thing we need to do is work out the mean for the data in the table. So to start off doing that, we're going to work out the midpoint of each group. So we've got 80 to 85, and to find the midpoint you add the 80 and the 85 together, then you divide by 2. So this will be 82.5, then 87.5, then 92.5, then 97.5, and then finally 100 plus 105 divided by 2 is 102.5. Next we need to find the FT, which is just the frequency times the duration of calls. Now in this first group we're not timesing it by 80 to 85 or anything like that, we're timesing it by the midpoint, so our midpoint effectively becomes the T. So we're going to do 15 times that, which will be 1237.5, and we're just going to keep going and multiplying each of these together. And then finally 2050. Right, next we need to add up the frequencies and add up the FTs. So we're going to have the sum of the frequencies. So I'm just adding all this column up, and that will be 80. And we have sum of the FT. And so we're going to just add this column up here. And so that would be 7,450. So what this column represents is all the numbers added up together. This column represents how many numbers we have. So to find the mean, it's all of the numbers added together, which will be 7,450, over the amount of numbers we have, which is 80. So when you do that, we get 93.125. Now this question is about the improvement that we've made, or that the manager has made, the call centre's made. So we're looking at subtracting the 93.125 away from the last week, which was 105. So we're looking for improvement. And we're going to do 105, take away the 93.125, and that's going to be 11.875. Now it does ask for 2 decimal places, so that will be 11.88. Integer just means whole number, so we're looking for all the whole numbers that satisfy these 2 inequalities. Well, the first inequality says that it has to be greater than 3. So the smallest number that is greater than 3 is 4. The second inequality says it has to be less than or equal to 8. So I'm just going to keep going until I get to a number that is less than or equal to 8. It can't be 9 because 9 is not less than or equal to 8. So our answer is 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation. And I could put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject, so we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says expand your answer fully. So we're just going to expand the brackets, 7m plus 70. So we've got a right angle triangle and we're given 2 lengths and we're asked to find a third length, and that means we're going to be using Pythagoras' theorem. And to do that, we're just going to label the sides A, B and C. And C must be the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle. Pythagoras' theorem says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A we can see is 3.4, B is 5.2. And we're looking for what C squared is. So 3.4 squared plus 5.2 squared is 38.6. And we need to solve to find out what C is. And to do that, what we do is we just square root both sides. So square root of 38.6 is 6.212 blah blah blah. And C squared, the square root of that is C. So to two decimal places, it's going to be 6.21. To find the probability that this person was wearing a red item, we need to work out the amount of red in total and the total amount of people. So the success is red, so we're looking at red. So 7 plus the 4, which is 11. And the total amount is the 10 plus the 7 plus the 4 plus the 2. So we're going to add all those together, we make 23. So our answer is 11 over 23. So 7 times 10 to the power 4 is going to be 7, and it's going to be 70,000. And 9 times 10 to the power of 7 will be 90 million. And so when you add them together, you get 9007000. Now, if you have access to a calculator, if this is on the calculator paper, then you can just type it into your calculator. Some people think there's a quick way of doing this, like adding the 7 and the 9. There isn't. You've just got to work out what this number is, work out what this number is, and add them together. First thing I'm going to do is just draw the square out, and we know the length of it is 10x plus 10, but it is a square, so that's the same all the way around it. But we're also told that the perimeter is 440, so the perimeter is 440. So what we can do is we can work out the perimeter in algebra by multiplying 10x plus 10 by 4, or just adding up the 4 lengths that we've got. So we're going to do 4 times 10x plus 10. But we also know that that is going to be 440, because we're told in the question that the perimeter is 440. So put our lines in, because we're going to solve, and we're just going to start by expanding the brackets. So that'll be 40x plus 40 equals 440. Then we're going to get rid of the plus 40 first, so take away 40 both sides. And so that would be 40x equals 400. And then we get rid of the 40 before the x, so we divide both sides by 40. And we've got x equals 10. So our answer is 10. The formula for the area of a circle is area equals pi times r squared. Now in this question we're given what the area is, which is 706.86, and we need to find out what the radius is. So I'm going to get my lines in, and I'm going to start by getting rid of that times pi. So I'm going to divide both sides by pi and get the r squared on its own. So when I divide that by pi, I get 225.000 blah blah blah, very close to 225. Then I want to get rid of this squared here, so to do that I do the inverse, which is square root, and square root of 225 is 15, and the square root of 225.000 blah blah blah, whatever was in our calculator, is going to be 15.000, etc. So pretty much 15.000. But it says it wants it to the nearest integer. Integer is a whole number, so my answer would be just 15. I'm going to start by expanding these brackets. You could have divided both sides by 2 and then expanded the brackets on the left, but I'm just going to expand them all because it might be maybe easier, I don't know. So we've got 2x minus 44. get our lines in because we're solving. And the rule is that we get rid of the smaller amount of x. So we've got 2x here and 12x on the other side. So we're going to subtract the 2x from both sides. And so that'll give us 10x minus 84 is less than minus 44. So we've got minus 44 there, but that won't be a problem because we're going to add 84 to both sides. And so we've got 10x is less than 40. And then we're going to divide 10 both sides to get what x is, or what x is less than, and that would be 4. So our answer is x is less than 4. So to find the area of a rectangle, we do length times the width. So here, to find the area, we will do the 10 times the whole of the 10t plus 4. And to show that we're doing the whole of it, we put it in brackets. So a different way of writing that is 10 brackets 10t plus 4. And whichever method you use to expand brackets, feel free to do it here. I'm going to just do the grid method, but whatever method you prefer. Actually, I don't need the, I've done too many here. Let's get rid of that. So we've got 10 times 10t plus 4. So and we're timesing them, so 10 times 10t, 10 times 10 is 100, so it'd be 100t, 10 times 4 is 40. So our answer will be 100t plus 40. So the formula we need here is that the sum of the interior angles is equal to the amount of sides, take away 2, times 180. So we know that the sum of the interior angles is 2160, and we're looking for what n is. So we're going to do a bit of solving. Not too difficult. We're going to divide by 180 both sides, and that will give us 12, and then we're going to add 2 both sides, and that would be 14. So the amount of sides is 14. So we're asked to find the value of n where both sequences have the same term. So I'm going to start off by equaling both nth terms to each other, and then we can find the value of n which gives the same term. So I draw my lines down, and I'm going to start off by getting rid of the n's from both sides. So we look to see which is the smaller amount. So we've got 12n and we've got 6n, so the smaller amount is the 6n. So we're going to take away 6n both sides, and so that would be 6n plus 19, and we've got rid of the 6n, so just 79. Next thing we're going to do is get rid of the 19, so take away 19 both sides, and so we've got 6n equals 79 take away 19, which is 60. And finally we just go divide the 6, and so that would be n equals 10. So the value of n is 10. Now we can just test this, because if you do 6 times 10, which is 60, 60 plus 79, which will be 139. And then if we do the same for the top one, 12 times 10, which is 120, plus 19, which is 139. So they both have the same term when n is 10. So I'm going to write the equation out, the formula out. And we're asked to make y the subject, so I'm just going to get my lines in. And so what's stopping us from having y on its own? Well, this minus 1. How am I going to get rid of it? Add 1 both sides. So we've got x plus 1 equals 9y. What else do we have that stops y from being on its own? Well, there's times 9 here. So we're going to do the opposite, the inverse, which is divide by 9 both sides. And to do that nicely, what we do is we just do it as a fraction. X plus 1 over 9 equals y. So therefore y is x plus 1 over 9. I'm just going to write the question out a bit bigger, just so we've got more room. And loads of different methods of expanding brackets. I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. So we just draw a smile rainbow, and I'll put a little line there to remind me to times it. So we do 5 times 7, which is 35, and it's 7x, so it's going to be 35x. and 5 times 4, which is 20. So our answer is 35x plus 20. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. So we're going to first of all convert the 11 litres into millilitres. So we're going to do 11 times 1,000, which would be 11,000. Okay, so we're going to just draw a line, like a number line. And we're going to have the 11,000 in the middle. Now, what would be the next one down if we're looking at to the nearest 10 mil? So we're going to add a 10 mil on, which will be 11010, and we're going to take the 10 mil away. So 11,000 take away 10 mil will be 10. What is it? 990. Now, when we're looking at limits, with the upper and lower part of it, we are looking at halfway points. So halfway here and halfway here. So this halfway point will be 10,995, and the next one will be 11,005, and that's the halfway points. And so that is going to be our upper and lower bound. And we just need to say that V can be anything above the 10,995 and including that, and it can be anything below 11,005, but it can't include that, because if it did, if it was 11,005, it would have rounded up to 11,010. When drawing a quadratic or a cubic or reciprocal graph, you've got to make sure that you find as many coordinates as you can with curves. With a linear graph, the minimum you need is 2, and we normally take 3 coordinates. With a curve, we need loads. So I'm going to pick loads of x coordinates. So I'm just going to pick all of the integers. Lots and lots. And I'm going to find out what the y coordinate is. So for the first one, I'm going to put in, on my calculator, a quarter times brackets minus 4, close brackets, plus 4, and all of that in brackets. Then I'm going to do the second bracket. So I'm going to put bracket, bracket minus 4, close bracket, minus 1, close bracket. And then bracket, bracket minus 4, close bracket, take away 4, close bracket. Okay? So I'm just going to put in bracket minus 4 each time you see an x here. When you do that, you get the answer of 0, which makes sense because minus 4 plus 4 is 0, and whenever you times something by 0, it will get to 0. Then I'm going to do the same with minus 3, and I get 7. Same with minus 2, I get 9. Same with minus 1, I get 7.5. Same with 0, I get 4, and 0, then minus 3, then minus 3.5, and at 4 I get 0, then 9, and then 25. Now that last one, the 25, is not really that helpful because the axis only goes up to 16. So the next thing is I'm going to plot them. So minus 4 is at 0, so that will be here. Minus 3 is at 7, so that's going to be halfway here. Then we're at 9, which will be halfway here. 7.5 is a bit more interesting because it's halfway between 7 and 8, so it would be about here. Then 4, then 0. So it looks like it's going to go down now, but it's going to go down for a little bit, like down here where it's minus 3, and even further down here where it's minus 3.5, but then it starts going up again. So 0, and then 9, and then we're off the top. So the next thing we need to do is join that. Now it's sometimes easier if you turn the page sideways, depends on the curve. I can't turn this sideways, so mine's hopefully gonna look okay. And it's one continuous curve going through all the points. And so we're gonna try our best here. And it's not easy for me because I can't quite see the points. You shouldn't take your pencil off at all. Just I have to because my hand gets in the way. And then we know it shoots up from here. Now, that doesn't look the best curve in the world, but as an examiner, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the fact that it goes through all the points, which it does. I'm looking at the fact that there's no obvious gaps, which there isn't. It stops here, but it goes off the top of the graph here, so that's fine. I'm looking for no feathering, which is where you do kind of that with the pencil. No, there's no feathering there. There's a little bit of a wavy bit there, but I think a lot of students get worried that they're going to lose marks unless it's perfect and they start rubbing it out. Like if you've missed a coordinate and you've kind of gone around something, then yeah, maybe rub it out. Or if you've got feathering, or if it just goes, if you knock your hand and it goes off or whatever. But unless it's awful, unless it's not going to get the marks, just leave it. If it's a bit wavy, if it's a bit weird round here, and I think, you know, it's not perfect around this bit either, don't worry about it, leave it, it'll still get the marks. Yes, this one doesn't quite go through the coordinate, but it's close enough. And, you know, I think that students often, when I'm marking, I see that they've rubbed it out several times, and where I can see it's still there, it was fine. It was going to get the marks regardless. And so it's wasted time, and it just makes it look a bit messier. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So when we're doing column vectors and adding and subtracting them, we just literally add and subtract the top and bottom numbers. So A plus B minus C will be, just looking at the top, 9 plus 18 minus 9, 9 plus 18 minus 9, which will equal 18. And the bottom will be 9 plus minus 18, so really minus 18, and minus 9. And so that will be minus 18. So our column vector will become 18 minus 18. We don't have to for this question, but it might be helpful to draw a Venn diagram for this. And we've got green and brown leaves. So we'll have green on the left and brown on the right. So green and brown. And we're told that there are 19 green and 15 brown, and 6 that were not green and brown. So the only number we can put in is the 6 on the outside of the Venn diagram. We're told that 19 are green, but we don't know which, either they're in here or a bit of both. So what we can do is we can label the center X, and we can say that there are 19 take away X just green, because they could have been both green and brown. And for the brown we can do the same, so it'd be 15 minus X. And for the next step, we know that all of them together add up to 32, because it says in the question. So we're going to add all of these, the 19 minus X, the 15 minus X, and the 6 together, and we know that equals 32. And let's get our solving lines in. So we've got minus X and minus X, so that will be a minus X. And we've got 19 plus 15 plus 6, which will be 40, equals 32. We're going to take away the 40 both sides. And we can just times by minus 1 both sides to make them both positive. So now we know X is 8, we can start filling in the Venn diagram. So it's 19 take away 8, which will be 11. X is 8, so we know that that's 8. And 15 take away 8, which is 7. So find the amount that were green and brown. We know it's going to be 8. So we notice with the simultaneous equations, we've got the coefficients of the x and the y's different. And I always focus on the y's. So I'm going to make the y's the same. And there's no reason you couldn't focus on the x's and make the x's the same. It's just I tend to always focus on the y's. So what I'm going to do is figure out what 3 and 8, so I'm ignoring the signs, what's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 8, so what's the first number in both their times tables, and that's going to be 24. So I need to make them both 24. So I'm going to write out the first equation, so 2x minus 3y equals 12. Get my lines in, and I notice that I'm going to times everything by 8 to make that y, the coefficient of the y, to be minus 24. So we got 16x minus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted. And then we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. Going to write the second equation, so we've got 3x plus 8y equals minus 7. And this time I'm going to times everything by 3. And so we've got 3 times 3, which is 9x, plus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted. And then minus 7 times 3, which is minus 21. So I'm going to write these out again. So 16x minus 24y equals 96. And 9x plus 24y equals minus 21. So with simultaneous equations, we're working downwards. So I'm just going to show that with circles. Make sure the signs go with the y's. And we're either going to add or subtract to these. I'm just going to make that more clear. That's 96. And to know whether we're going to add or subtract, we look at the one we've made the same. So with the y's, we've made the same. And we look at the signs. If the signs are the same, we're going to subtract. If they're different, we're going to add. So S in the same is S in subtract. The D in the different is the D in add. Well, looking at them, they are different because the first one's a negative 24, the second one's a positive 24. So we are going to be adding. But we're not just going to add those, we're going to add all of them going downwards. So we're going to do our kind of sum line, and we're going to add going downwards. So 16x plus 9x is 25x. Minus 24 plus 24 is going to be 0, which is good. That's what we wanted. We want to get rid of the y's. And then we've got 96 plus minus, so effectively minus 21, which is 75. Do a quick solving by dividing both sides by 25. and we've got x is equal to 3. Now we know what x is, but we've got to find out what y is. So what we're going to do is substitute the value of x into the first equation. So we've got 2 times 3 minus 3y equals 12. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, so we're going to take away 6 both sides. And we've got a minus 3 as the coefficient there, so we're going to divide both sides by minus 3. So we've got y equals minus 2. So we're asked to find the bearing of Freetown from Gamley. So that is this angle here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find this angle, and this will obviously be 90 degrees because the hiker walked west, and it's against the west line and the north line, so it's definitely 90 degrees. So we can work out what the bearing is if we know that angle inside the triangle. So we're going to start by labelling the sides. Well, we've got a 90 degrees here, we've got a hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here next to the angle, and we've got the opposite, which is across from the marked angle. Here we're not using the hypotenuse, so we can cross that out. And we can do our SOHCAHTOA. And the only one that doesn't have the hypotenuse is TOA. And so we're doing tan x equals the opposite, which is 49 over 98. Get our lines in. And we're going to do the inverse tan to both sides. So we get x equals, and we do inverse tan, which is 26.565, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we know that the whole of the way around up until this point is 270 because we've got this 90 degree left. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to work out the bearing. So bearing, we're just going to do 270, take away the 26.565, blah, blah, blah. And that gives us 243.434, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to the nearest whole number, so that's going to be 243. So we're asked to find 3a minus 2b. So let's work out 3a first. 3a is going to be the top times 3 and the bottom times 3. So the top times 3 is 9, bottom times 3 is 6. Then we're going to work out what 2b is. Again, times the top by 2, times the bottom by 2. And so 3a take away 2b is going to be 3a, which is 9 at the top, take away, and then the 2b, which is minus 2. And then the bottom will be 6, take away, minus 4. And so that's going to be 9 plus 2, which is 11. 6 plus 4, which is 10. So the vector is going to be 11 at the top, 10 at the bottom. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.